Sorry, hello, good morning.
I didn't wake you up, did I? Did I wake you up? Were you asleep?
No. I mean, no now. I mean, I just like 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, just when I woke up.
That's all right. So 20 or 30 minutes ago, you were sleeping, but now you've woken up. You were already awake when I called you. That's all right, because I don't like to wake people up. So as long as I didn't wake you up, that's fine.
How are you, Walter? How are you?
Yes, I'm ever so good, Christian, by grace, of course, always. Were you able to see the video that I put on my YouTube profile?
Yes, I saw them. I saw it.
And how did you find it? What did you think of it?
It's good, but quite embarrassing sometimes. Because of me, of course.
Because you felt that maybe you made a few mistakes and you're feeling a bit embarrassed about the mistakes you made whilst speaking in English. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. But it's because it's not too often to hear yourself. I mean, to hear myself doing it. So that's why. But it's
the
okay.
fact that you're hearing yourself.
I don't have problem.
That's okay. That's good, Christian. I know some people don't like the sound of their own voice, and they sometimes feel a little bit uneasy when listening to a recording of themselves. But for me, it sounded very good indeed. I mean, I think you did a very good job, of course, as you always do in the English lessons. So for me, I think it's very positive. I think you've done a very good job, Christian. So well done for that. Yeah, ever so welcome. Always with the greatest of pleasure, Christian. That's great. So let's have a look. Last time we talked about pollution and the plastic and the COVID-19 situation.
Exactly. As well, yeah.
So, what would you like to do to talk about this time in this lesson together? Would you like us to look at either the questions or the articles?
Okay, let's see the questions. Yeah.
So okay, let's see the questions again, and so let's have a look. So last time.
Choose which number I will say now today. I will say, let me think a number. See 64.
So 64. So for the questions, I'm just waiting for it to open up. There we are. And I'll let you read then what it says for 64 then, Christian.
It says, which charity or charitable cause is most deserving?
Charitable, yes.
Okay, which charity or charitable cause is most deserving of money?
Deserving. It's a
deserving
sound.
Like a Z.
Like a Z. Deserving. That's right.
Okay, a most deserving money.
Right, deserving of money. So that's a very good question, actually, because obviously, I'm sure there were a lot of charitable organizations and causes which are worthy of receiving funding. The thing is to decide which is the most deserving, the one that's the most worthy. And which ones, I mean, what we can do is we can mention all the different ones which we think are deserving, and then decide after that which of all of those would be the most deserving, that's right, the superlative, the most. So let's start with naming a few. Which ones can you think of then, Christian?
I never touched this vocabulary, so I have no words. I would say maybe
Ah,
for I don't know, animals could be one. No,
yes, animals. So I'll write them down so that we keep a list of them. So
thank you.
charities for animals. Okay.
Animals, maybe for how's this work when the kids that don't have fathers, they don't
Ah,
have any relatives,
The orphans.
orphans,
Yes, absolutely. That's another good cause.
orphans,
Orphans.
any other elder people as well.
Well, if you have orphans, what about the widows? Because they're the ones who have to take care of those who are orphans because they've lost their
Okay,
father. And often we talk about the widows and the orphans together because the orphans, sometimes when they still have their mother, but they've lost their father, they're still with the person who is called a widow because she's lost her
okay,
husband. And in fact, they're in quite a difficult situation because obviously it's difficult in some places for women to find work because usually in some places it's the men who have more access to work than women. And because
yes,
they need to take care of the children as well as working, so it's like having a double job, really.
yes.
So it can be, you know,
So we
quite.
say like orphans and widows.
Yes, we could put both of them together, orphans
Hmm.
and widows. And you know, in the Bible that it actually says that this is the one type of religion, which basically means uh, the practice that you do, because religion is just what you do, basically. It's the way that you do things. So
Yes.
the if you want to be spiritual in what you do, and what the Bible calls religion, is first of all, of course, to be upright. That is to say, a person of integrity, an honest person, a good, correct person, doing what is right, to being obedient to God. Of course, that is the first thing. But the second one is to take care of the orphans and the widows. That's what the
And
Bible says.
okay.
So that is biblical. So that is a very good cause. I mean, like,
Very important.
it's very worthy and deserving as a charity to receive funding and finance.
Yeah, okay.
So that's a very good one. Can you think of any other ones, Christian?
I would say like okay. Elder people, maybe.
Yes, the elderly people, of course, they're
Uh,
also
el-
elderly. So
elderly.
elderly,
Okay.
which means the older
Elderly.
people. Of course, they're also in a needy situation because often they are not able to take care of themselves and they often need help
Okay.
in
Need
lots
a
of
hand.
ways.
Yes.
They need physical help, they need financial help because they're often living with a very small pension, so they don't have much money. So it's
Hmm.
true that yes, they need a lot of help as well. The elderly people. Hmm. Uh, who
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 else?
who
So
else?
we'll say um, uh, I don't know any institution who is searching for I don't know for medicine or things like that
Of
to cure
course, all
to
the
cure.
medical institutions, the medical organizations, like those doing research, uh, looking for a cure for the coronavirus and other diseases which are incurable at the moment.
Hmm.
So let's say health. We're talking about health in general, or medical research. Yes. So we could talk
Medical
about health
research.
because obviously we want to take care of those who are ill, who may not have enough money to pay for their own treatment, and for medical research to be able to find more cures and more solutions for those who are ill with an illness or disease which doesn't have a cure, and therefore they need to find a solution, a cure for these people. That's right. That's very important. Okay, can you think of anything else, Christian?
Anything else? I would say for nature, maybe.
Nature, the
Nature,
environment.
the environment. For example, this institution, this Greenpeace. Do you know if
Yes.
they receive uh, money from people? Actually, right now I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know if they receive money officially from the government.
Maybe from
It's not
people.
like, I think it's more from people. I mean, obviously, health institutions, medical research, I'm sure they receive a lot of money from government. And even people who are elderly, orphans, widows, maybe even animals, they receive a certain amount of support from government. But for the environment, I think the government uses the money it has to invest in certain types of energy, like green energy, to avoid fossil fuels, looking
Fossil
into,
fuels.
yes, you've heard of fossil fuels, haven't you? Fossil
Yes.
fuels, that's anything which is like petrol, oil, gas, those are the fossil fuels, even coal. But instead of that, we're looking for green energy, renewable energy, like solar power, wind power, with those big windmills, those big propellers that are turning, wave power, hydroelectric dams and reservoirs. All of those, forms of energy are renewable and do not pollute, and so they're very environmentally friendly. Now, and yes, and let's write this word down: environmentally friendly. But of course, this isn't the same as funding an organization like Greenpeace, you see.
Yes.
So these are two different things. This is the government choosing clean, non-polluting energy for its energy needs. So they were actually investing in organizations which produce that energy. But Greenpeace is more of a militant, well, let's say they are very well-known organization, but they are more of a protest organization. You see, they are like protesting against the bad things that are going on in the world, but they are not the ones who actually produce the renewable energy, if you see what I mean. They are just encouraging people to make the right choices, but they themselves are not solar energy or wind energy or water energy producers, if you see what I mean. So
Yes.
that it is different. And when you think of some of the government's attitudes towards some of these organizations like Greenpeace, I mean, look at the French government. What did they do towards Greenpeace? Did they support Greenpeace? Did they
Actually,
finance
no, I don't know.
Greenpeace? Do you
No,
know
I don't
what
know.
happened?
Actually,
What the French government did? Well, in fact, they did the opposite. Instead of trying to help Greenpeace, they did everything they could to hinder, which is the opposite of help. Hinder means to complicate things for Greenpeace. They actually
How do you type that word? Hint.
hinder, the verb to hinder, which is the opposite of the verb to help.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
It's like to prevent them from being helped, or to complicate things for them, that they need even more help than before. So you're like putting them in an even more negative situation. Because what the French government did a few years or even tens of years ago, now this is as old as maybe 30 or maybe even 40 odd years ago, so it was quite a long time ago. At the time, Greenpeace had a ship which they used to go around and denounce all the bad practices that were being done, polluting the waters, illegal fishing, etc. And also when there was an oil spill, oil pollution. So they were basically telling everybody about all this. But so what the French government did, because they found that Greenpeace was like disturbing the French government, especially because they're against nuclear power. And I think the French government are into nuclear power. So obviously they weren't happy with Greenpeace trying to block their nuclear power efforts. And nuclear testing as well, which happened also some time ago. Not so much now, but there was some time ago that there were quite a lot of tests and experiments being done with nuclear power. Even atomic weapons, nuclear weapons, were being tested in places which belonged to France, like French Guiana. I don't know if you've heard of French Guiana.
French Guiana, no.
No, it's one of the countries like which are like colonies, which are outside of mainland France, because there's lots of places.
Maybe I know in Spanish.
Yes.
Maybe I know the country. Yes.
And they actually tested nuclear weapons around those places, and those places, as a result, have been highly polluted with radiation. And obviously that affects the local population there. Yes, and that's been scandals that have been revealed by Greenpeace, who have measured the radiation levels with geigometers. I can't remember how you pronounce that word because that's a difficult word. It measures the level of radiation. And so what the French government did was to send a few of their, secret agents from their information services, secret information services. And basically, these secret agents like bombed or exploded with explosives the ship of Greenpeace called Rainbow Warrior 1. But since they sunk and destroyed the ship of Greenpeace, the Rainbow Warrior, yes, they actually exploded. Of course, they didn't know that they would be detected because they were sending secret agents. So they were supposed to be doing it undercover in order not to be detected. So it was unofficially that they were doing this, not officially. But investigators were able to find and discover that it was the French government who was behind this, and the people who did it who were French secret agents for the French secret information services. So they actually destroyed the Rainbow Warrior by exploding it with explosives. And so now Greenpeace had to find another ship. So now they, instead of having Rainbow Warrior 1, they now have another ship, a new ship called Rainbow Warrior 2. And so that one's still all right. The French government haven't been able to
to explode.
To explode it, but now Greenpeace, obviously knowing that what the French government are capable of doing, they probably have a 24-hour, 7-day a week, 24/7, round-the-clock security service, like patrolling and guarding and protecting the ship at all times, to avoid any spies or secret agents approaching the ship or coming anywhere near it, to be able to make it explode. Can you imagine?
Yes.
Amazing, isn't it?
There's so
So,
many things.
so many
I'm looking at
things.
a picture right
Picture.
now of the Rainbow Warrior one.
You can see the story and the picture all about
Yeah,
Rainbow Warrior One.
yes, I put in Google images, so that was interesting. I will read it later a
Yes,
bit
that'll
as
be
well.
interesting to read. So you didn't actually know about this at all.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know actually.
Wow. So this is like a totally new um, discovery for you
Exactly.
about the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior, which was codenamed. Oh, look at that! Now that is a very satanic code name. It was called Operation Satanic. Well, with a French
No
spelling,
way,
of course.
really?
I tell you, I'm going to send it. This is Wikipedia. I mean, this is official. Oh yes, French Polynesia. That's where they were doing all their nuclear testing, and they didn't like the Rainbow Warrior Greenpeace interfering. It was a bombing
Yeah, I
operation by
see.
the action branch of the French Foreign Intelligence Services. Exactly what I was telling you
Wow.
about.
Yeah.
French
Right.
secret agents. I mean, I'm putting this in the Skype chat for you. So if you want to
Thank
have
you.
a quick read of that, I'll let you read
Mm-hmm.
it now. Can you see what I've written or posted?
Yes. See result, web result, sinking of the Rainbow Warrior.
Yes.
Okay, Wikipedia, sinking of the Rainbow. The sinking of the Rainbow Warrior code name Operation Satanic was a bombing
Well, in
operation by
The
Action.
French way of writing it with the accent on operation and satanic with QUE at the end instead of the letter C. So it's the French spelling of it, Opération Satanique, which basically means the satanic operation. Can you imagine that?
Okay. Satanic operation, of course, yeah.
Yes. Amazing
So
satanic
bad, eh?
operation. And it was done,
Methods bombings. Date
yeah.
10 July 1985.
Uh-huh. They did that in 1985. So I said it was about 30 to 40 years ago. Well, in fact, it's exactly 35 years ago, which is actually between 30 and 40 years ago. So,
Exactly,
um,
because today is which day is today? Today is
oh,
13
it's the
or
13th. Yes, it's 3 days
yeah, of
after the
course.
anniversary, after the celebration,
Hmm.
because I'm sure the French government celebrates every 10th of July the bombing because they were successful in sinking the Rainbow Warrior. So they probably celebrated it 3 days ago. Their annual celebration of the 35th year that they bombed with the satanic operation.
It's a
Um,
Tony, oh my god.
it's amazing.
Such a
Yeah.
name.
And it was in retaliation for protests by Greenpeace. Now, if I open it up, I'm sure it'll be against the nuclear testing. That's right. It's a way to protest against a planned French nuclear test in Mururoa. That's the exact name instead of Guyana. But I know it's in that kind of area. It's a country like that. And oh, there was actually a photographer who was drowned on the sinking ship. So there was actually a
Hmm.
casualty, a person who died because of that. So the French Secret Service actually killed one person, a photographer.
Yeah, but the guy, the photographer was inside maybe
Yes,
or
he was inside the ship because obviously, because the press, the media are often
yes, yes.
interviewing the Greenpeace about their activities, and because there's a lot of media attention, people are very interested to read about what Greenpeace is doing. So this was a freelance Dutch photographer of Portuguese origin called Fernando Pereira, and
Mm-hmm. I see it
he
now.
was drowned when the French intelligence service, GGSE, Direction Générale des Services Étrangers, so the general direction or leadership of the French foreign intelligence services. They detonated a bomb and sank the Rainbow Warrior, and on the 10th of July, yeah. Let me send you this as well. So the actual link to the summary that I sent you earlier, and there you have really all the information from Wikipedia about it. The sinking of the Rainbow Warrior.
What? Uh-huh.
Absolutely amazing. Oh, it's Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure. So it's the general direction of the external security. So they call it
Mm-hmm.
security, but they're the ones we need security from. We need protection from them. They say they do external security, but we need to be secure and protected against their security, which is literally bombing and killing people, just because the Rainbow Warrior were planning to protest. They were on their way to protest against a planned French nuclear test, because they were doing nuclear tests at the time. Exploding nuclear bombs, causing a lot of radiation, of course. Absolutely amazing. So it's interesting when we talk about the environment, some governments will fund some environmental friendly organizations which actually produce the energy which is environmentally friendly, but other governments will literally do everything they can to prevent environmental groups like Greenpeace from doing their work, especially when they're exposing and denouncing the government as
exactly. That's the problem.
Having
when you go against the government.
Exactly. They were against the government's initiatives and operations. And so basically they wanted to remove this disturbing group by destroying their ship, literally. Absolutely amazing. So there we go. So you've learned something new there, Cristian.
Thank you, Walter.
You're ever so welcome.
Yes, I did.
With a greatest of pleasure. So now let's come back to our question. Can you think of any other organization or charity which would deserve money?
Okay, we said about people, we said about animals, we said about nature.
Yes.
Well, of course, we are saying like in general, because there's so many of them.
There are so many. Actually. Not there is.
There are so many of them.
So many of them. Yes.
There are so many of them. If I should choose one.
It's difficult. Yes, now you have to choose one. Now that we've listed the main ones, because those are the ones we thought of. So those are probably amongst the most deserving, like animals, orphans and widows, elderly. That's already 3. Health and medical research and the environment. Well, that's 5 altogether, really. So which out of those 5, if you had to choose one, it's not easy, but if you had to choose one of those 5, not easy at all. Which would you choose? Easy. And why? Not only which one, but why? You also have to give a reason, you see. Your choice has to be justified. That makes it a little bit more difficult. Yes, and it's recorded as well. So you have to have a very good reason. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of people saying, hey, what about my charity? You forgot me. I'm more deserving than what you said because my charity is such a good charity,
I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure.
It's difficult, actually, yes.
Yeah, it's difficult. So
it's difficult. So you reserve judgment.
So many animals.
So
I would say animals, maybe.
Reserve your judgment. Have you heard of that? Reserving your judgment.
Exactly. Maybe to keep it for you.
Yeah. Yes, you can leave it for me to try and figure out. Now, you would say probably animals, because I know you're an animal lover.
I would say
right.
I have reasons for all of them. I think, but it's quite difficult to just choose one and
choose one out of the 5. Yes. So actually, so as to remain PC, that is to say politically correct, because we don't want to upset all the people who listen to the recording, and we don't want them all complaining that their charity is the best and that we chose one charity rather than another and that they don't agree with our choice. I mean, if we could just then slightly rephrase the question by saying, which charities, plural, or charitable causes, plural, are, instead of is, are most deserving of money? You see, we can rephrase a question, and that way we've given 5 answers, all of which are very good, of course, and we've answered the question, and we don't have to choose one out of the 5. Isn't that brilliant, Christian? We found the solution by changing the question.
Exactly. Put it in the plural and accept all of them.
Exactly. We put the plural everywhere, and that enables us to have 5 instead of just 1. That's brilliant, isn't it? Instead of adapting the solution to the question, we're adapting the question to the solutions, plural, that we found. That reminds me of another question. I'll see if you can answer this one, Christian. Okay, I'm going to write it for you in the Skype chat as I say it. So, if this is the question, what is the answer? If this is the question, what is the answer? So as we're talking about 350 good questions to ask, I would add 350 first. That's right, 351. So an extra question. So we have now 351 good questions to ask. And my extra question, question number 351, if this is the question, what is the answer?
The question?
So you're saying the answer is the question?
I think so, yes.
So I see what you mean, but for a question to be an answer, it has to answer the question. So you see what I mean? So you're saying the answer. Now, obviously, I mean, you're saying that the answer is the question. But then if it's the same question, we're just repeating the same thing twice. We're not actually changing anything. So we need to change something. Do you remember what I said about instead of adapting the answer to the question, we adapt the question to the answer?
Yes.
How could you adapt the question to the answer, Christian? Now that's an interesting question.
Yeah, that one is the question actually.
Yes, that is a good question.
So, if this is the question, what is the answer?
Yes. And there is a perfect answer to that, by the way. There were lots of different answers, but there is one which is perfect, a perfect answer.
No, and sure, Walter.
So, what did you say?
No, sure. Not
sure. I actually gave this question as an exam question to my final year English students in the university faculty where I was teaching English in Belgium, just south of Brussels, in Sint-Pietersloo. And so they had to basically write like an essay, a dissertation about a certain subject. And to introduce a subject, I just asked the question, which they then had to answer in the exam. That was their exam. And this was the exact question which I put as the question that they needed to answer. If this is the question, what is the answer? Can you imagine that as an examination question that you have to answer in
unexpected
a 3-hour exam? So they have 3 hours to answer that question. Oh yes. It drove them absolutely crazy, absolutely wild. I mean, some of them were like holding their heads and like almost pulling their hair out, and I could hear pieces of paper being crumpled up. You know, when you screw up a piece of paper because,
Yes.
you know, you're wanting to try again, and then screw up into a ball. The piece of paper you were writing on, and you throw it away. You throw it on the ground, and then you take a new piece of paper and start all over again. There were so many bits of paper that were being, screwed up and thrown on the ground. I mean, literally, the ground was covered with bits of paper where my students were abandoning their initial attempt and were trying again.
Okay.
And I tell you, the frustration on their faces and the expressions. I mean, I think they were like going through the worst exam of their lives. And a lot of them said it pushed them really to the limit, that they'd never had such a difficult exam in the whole of their lives, the most difficult of all their exams. But because it was difficult, you know that it's when situations are really extreme that people really, it brings out the best out of people.
Yes,
because it pushes them to their limits. So they're really having to try very hard. And because they're trying so hard, they actually produce brilliant work. Much better than if it was an easy exam and they would be feeling a little bit lazy and really not really trying very hard. Here they were trying harder than they'd ever tried ever before in any exam they'd ever done before. And so I told them once they'd finished the exam and given in their exam paper, as they were obviously leaving the examination room at different times, like as soon as one had finished and given in his answer paper, as he went out, I just stepped outside with the person just to give them the answer, so at least they would have the answer. But that's once they were outside the examination room, you see, and once outside, they couldn't come back in during the exam. And I told them this was the perfect answer. I told them that if they had written this answer, they would have immediately received 100% full marks, because it would have been the perfect answer. So shall I write this for you then, Cristian? The perfect answer to the question? Okay. This is the perfect answer. If this is the answer, what is the question?
Really?
Basically, you're adapting the question to the answer, like we did earlier with the charity, you see. Instead of trying to adapt the answer to the question, we actually adapted the question to the answer. And here, you were right in saying that the answer is the question, but what question? It can't be the same question, because then, well, you haven't really answered anything. You've just asked the same question again. But here, you're adapting the question, or rather the answer, the question to the answer, by asking a question which is in fact an answer to the question. Because if you say that if this is the answer, then what is the question? Which is the perfect answer to if this is the question, what is the answer? Basically, you've gone full circle. Do you know the expression of going full circle? That means you've turned the thing completely around, and you've said, well, basically given the perfect answer, because you have answered the question with another question, which says that, therefore, if this is the answer, what is the question? So it's the perfect answer, because it basically turns the situation completely around. And from a question, you have an answer, but an answer which is, once again, asking a question. Like you said, the answer is another question. So you understood that. So well done in realizing that the answer is in fact the question, but you needed just to adapt the question to the answer. That's it. So what do you think of this? How do you find this? Hmm.
That is how do you say before in
Uh-huh.
Operation Satanic?
Oh, static operation. Yes.
No,
Well,
no, but
this,
did you got something similar in the exam? I mean, with those students when you did this question?
yes. I mean, the students um, almost thought this was like a satanic operation or a satanic exam because they thought it was so awful, so dreadful, so terrible, so difficult. But in fact, to them, there is another possibility, another question another answer that you could have
Answer.
given to this question. Yes, and the answer would have been a one-word answer, which would have been once again a perfect answer, which would have given them once again 100% if they would have answered this question with just one word. Can you imagine a 3-hour exam? If they'd have answered this with just one word, it would have been full marks on 100% for 3 hour. Isn't that amazing?
Wow,
I mean,
which one is the
I'm
one?
exactly. I knew that was the next question you were going to ask me. You're interested in knowing what is this
Did
perfect word?
did you tell them this did you
Yes,
tell this to them?
yes. As soon as they left the exam room, after they'd finished their exam, once they stepped outside and I closed the door behind me so that nobody inside the exam room would hear it. And once they are outside the exam room, they are not allowed to go back into the exam room whilst the exam is still in session, in process. So I told them, this is the perfect answer. I said to them, I, do you remember the song? Because actually, this was not any ordinary university faculty. It was a university faculty of theology, you see.
Okay.
It was like a Bible college or Bible university, you see, where they learn biblical English. I was actually a teacher of biblical English. And
Okay.
so I said, this is the perfect answer because it's a biblical answer. And I asked them, do you remember the song, Jesus is the answer to the world today. Above him, there's no other. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer to the world today. Above
No
him,
way.
there's no other. Jesus is the way. And I sang them the song very quietly, so as the others in the exam room couldn't hear me singing it, but I sang it very softly. And I
Uh-huh.
tell you, when they heard it, I mean, they were almost pulling their hair out once again in frustration. They looked at me with eyes like wide open, like their eyes were as big as saucers. You know the expression when you look at somebody with your eyes wide open, like really wide
Yes.
eyed. Their eyes were just like wide open. They were like, and the expression on their faces was like, is this for real? I mean, am I dreaming or am I awake? Is this for real? Is this really happening? Can
After
this be
3 hours of nightmares.
after 3 hours of examination? I said to them, well, that's the perfect word because Jesus is perfect and he's the perfect answer. As the song says, Jesus is the answer to the ones in the world today. Above him, there is no other because Jesus is the way. And that
It,
is a very well-known song of praise.
it's the perfect answer, but it's not the easiest.
Oh, no, exactly. It's the hardest because it's only one word. And if you can find that word in 3 hours of exam, then you're doing well because not a single student found that word in the 3 hours of examination when I corrected the examination papers and read all of what they'd written. And they'd written a lot, actually, and it was very good quality. Oh, they'd really gone beyond themselves. They'd even superseded themselves. They'd actually, done even as I think could possibly have imagined, and also they'd impressed me, all of them, so much so that every single student who was there in that examination passed the exam, successfully passed the exam. Not a single student failed, because the quality of their answers, even though it wasn't the perfect answer, it was so good. It was not 100%, but it was like all of them 99%. They'd written lots, pages and pages, but they'd done brainstorming, and the results were brilliant. I mean, I could have put them all together and it would have been a bestseller. I could have produced a book with the content of those examination papers. I'd have put all of those examinations papers in a book and published it. And I tell you, the bestseller book, because the quality of their writing was so good. That's why every single student succeeded in that exam. They all successfully passed, even though a lot of them thought they failed because they found it so difficult. They didn't think what they was the correct answer to the question, and so, but all of them knew that song of praise, because that was one of the well-known songs of praises that were being sung at the time, and they'd already heard it being sung at their university during the time of praise and worship and adoration that they do at their university in the mornings before their classes start at the university. So all of them knew this song of praise, you see, but none of them thought of the word Jesus as being the answer to this question.
They couldn't imagine at the moment.
So and they were so amazed, astonished that this was the answer, the perfect answer, because obviously Jesus is perfect, so it's a perfect answer, 100% perfect. And of course, the other perfect answer, if you turn the question right around, like 100%, so it's basically saying the same thing but the other way around, so it's a perfect answer. Is asking the question and asking for the answer. The other one is giving the answer but saying that if this is the answer, then what is the question?
What is the question?
Exactly. So it's like saying, if this is the question, what possible answer could answer this question? That's basically what it means. And the answer is, the perfect answer is, if this is the answer, what possible question could it be that could possibly still remain that question when you have an answer like this, which is answering the question in such a way that there is no question that can still be asked. It answers all the questions. Question that asks what is the answer is asking what is the question. So what possible question could still remain or could still be unanswered by an answer which asks you for the question? So in fact, you are like saying there is no question which isn't answered by this answer, which in itself is a question. So it's turning the whole thing right around 100% and perfectly answering the question. It's amazing, isn't it? Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you where I found this examination question. Do you know where I found it?
No, where?
I found it in an English joke book, a book of jokes.
Really?
It sounds like really. I didn't tell the students that because I think they might have become a little bit hostile and violent. So this is something I can tell you. Well, actually, as this is being recorded, I hope none of them will listen to this recording because they might be very upset with me. So I just pray none of them listen to this recording, because I didn't tell them that I found this question in an English joke book, a book of English jokes. And because at my university, when I was a student, a long time ago, because I remembered this like dozens of years later. But when I was a student at university, we had what's called a rag week. Rag week, well, they have that in other universities. At the beginning of each university year, they have the students who are the older students who are like playing fun and games with the younger students. It's like the initiation. Have you ever heard of that in a university?
The
They have
initiation,
a
yes.
period of initiation. That's right, when they initiate the new students, and the initiation is done by the older students. You've heard of that before, this
Yes.
Initiation period where they're all going around dressed up in a funny way and looking very strange in the streets and doing lots of funny things. So you have that in your country as well, Christian?
I think so, yes. Yeah.
You have that in
In
your country.
Ecuador, I think so. But
In
in Spain,
Ecuador as
yes.
well.
In Spain, yes, they have.
Yes. I think they have it all over the world, really. And so we call this in English the rag week because it lasts a whole week, actually. And rag because the students who are participating in this are dressed in rags, literally. They're dressed in very old clothes, which are torn and which have graffiti written all over them. Have you seen some of these, really old clothes with graffiti and everything?
I think so, yes.
Yes. And so that's why it's called Rag Week, because the students are wearing literally rags, which means old, torn clothes, which are falling apart. And they used to have what's called a rag book. And the rag book was the book of jokes. And they used to sell those to raise a bit of money for their cause or their charity or their movement or their group, to cover also the costs of all the activities that they were doing. And so they used to sell these joke books. They didn't cost a lot, they're quite inexpensive. And it was just full of jokes, literally. And this was one of the jokes that was written in it. And it was supposed to be like a joke question. But in fact, when you think about it, it could be seen as a very philosophical question, an existential question, a very deep and profound question about the meaning of life and the meaning of existence, of like, why are we here and what are we doing here and what is the meaning of life, and something very profound, and it can be understood this in lots of different ways. But the place where I found this in a joke book, as I say, I hope I don't have any of my previous students listening to this, because they might be very upset if they realize that I was actually taking a question very seriously and having it as the one and only question of a final year, a fourth year, final year, end of year exam, and such an important exam that basically if you succeed in the exam, basically they would have failed the whole year and they would have had to redo the whole year again.
No.
Can you see how? Yes, this is how important this exam was. This was their final exam, just one exam, which basically was to determine whether or not they would succeed their final year, their fourth year, not their third year, but their fourth year, and if they would be able there to graduate instead of having to do the fourth year all over again.
My God.
You see how important it was,
yes.
And your God is good all the time.
They were. Yeah, of course.
That's why they were in a state of shock when I told them all these things. They couldn't believe it. But as I say, even though I was very hard on them, you see, I like to be a teacher who pushes their students to the limit, because that's when they put the best of themselves. That's when I have the best coming out of them. So I really push them to the limit. So I'm really hard on them, but I'm always there to give them support whenever needed, whenever support is needed, to help them, to answer answer their questions, to be there, to make them understand things when they're very difficult, or in this case, to give all of them a successful pass in their exam, so that 100% of the students who took this exam, every single one passed without exception, and passed brilliantly with very good grades, like equivalents of 99%, like A+++ kind of thing. So I really gave them the maximum mark because they gave the maximum of themselves. They sweated it out during the exam. They were literally sweating, literally.
Yeah,
Literally, I could see the sweat on their foreheads. They were sweating. It was so hard, but I tell you, it produced the best results. And afterwards, some of the students gave me the best compliments instead of trying to kill me after the exam. Instead of having a revenge against me after the exam. No, instead I had some of the most brilliant compliments from the students. And one of them said that what they learned the most from me, even more than the actual content of the course that I was teaching, what impressed them the most and which was the greatest lesson for life, wasn't so much the content of the course, but even more than the actual content of the course, what they learned most from me was me as a person, the way I was, my character, my personality, my way of speaking and thinking, and my way of doing things. It was just the way I was as a person, you see, who I was, and how I spoke, how I acted. For them, they said they learned more from that than from the actual content of the course and the actual thing which I taught them. Isn't that amazing?
That's great. That's great. Actually, that's really important. As a teacher, is one of the most important things, I think, because you can give whatever you want in the theoretically, but the first impression, I think, as a student, we get. It's important for us the how the teacher is.
That's right. How the teacher is, that is in fact what is most important. And to have students tell me that, for me, that was the greatest compliment. And that's what gave me the greatest sense of achievement. And that's what made me the most grateful. And of course, I gave all the glory to God, because it's always by grace, It's not because of me, it's because of the Lord who is guiding me and directing me in all of these things. So obviously, I thank the Lord for everything, because it's all thanks to him. And I was eternally grateful for him. But that encouraged me, having those kind of compliments that really made me feel good about being a teacher, and that really made it worthwhile and worth it. I felt that this was really worth doing. This teaching that I was doing, it was really a good thing because of that, and because of the reaction of my students who really appreciated it. So it was brilliant.
After suffering, of course.
After suffering, of course, yes. But you know the expression, no pain, no gain. Do you know that expression? Do you know that expression?
So, yeah. If everything will be easy, yes, I know. If everything will be easy, so maybe
that's in everything we do.
Learn so much.
Exactly. That's in everything we do. So, in fact, I was actually teaching them a lesson for life, a bit like no pain, no gain, and showing them that sometimes to learn the most, you sometimes have to suffer the most and persevere the most.
That's true, yes.
And there's another expression in English which is similar. It's perspiration before inspiration. Have you heard of that expression before, Cristian?
Perspiration before inspiration.
Yes, perspiration before inspiration.
No, what does that mean, perspiration?
Well, that was an expression that one of my primary school teachers used to tell me. So we're talking a long way back, about 50 years ago, about half a century ago. And he was like saying, you have to sweat it out and really work hard at it before you start receiving the inspiration of it. It's like an author, a writer. Sometimes he has to go through a lot and really work a lot and work very hard at what he's doing before being inspired. So he has to perspire, he has to sweat it out, he has to really work hard and everything before he has like the breakthrough and he is actually inspired in what he's doing. Do you see what I mean?
Actually, this is great.
Christian.
This is really important, I think.
Yes.
Most of the people nowadays they are scared to change, to quit, to do whatever they want.
Yes, that's right.
They are scared maybe to lose their jobs or lose the comfort zone.
Yes.
And it's true. Perspiration before inspiration. Actually, it's true.
That's
But
right.
I think that most of the people now they want the inspiration straight away.
Yes, that is right. A lot of people are looking to have the inspiration straight away, and because of that, that means that they're really not really concentrating so hard on things, not striving so hard, not applying themselves and really putting in a lot of effort because they're just wanting everything to come simply, easily, without too much effort, because we live in a society, in a day and age and period of time where things are so simple, everything is simplified.
So easy to get actually.
Exactly, so easy. The internet, you have everything on the internet. It's so easy to have. It's push button technology. You just press a few buttons and you have everything you want. Well, almost. And so that makes people lazy. But if there's a way of encouraging the people to be hardworking, industrious, to bring out the best that they have in them, because they have it in them. It's just a question of bringing it out. And I try my best to bring it out. And these are some of the methods that I use to bring out the best out of my students, you see.
That was good. That was very good. Thank you,
Well,
Walter,
you're
for
ever so
sharing with me.
welcome, Christian. I'm glad you enjoyed the lesson as much as I did. That's brilliant.
Thank you, Walter. Yes.
With the greatest of pleasure. And I'm looking forward then to our next lesson together next time. That'll be great, Christian.
Thank you, Walter. The same.
Yeah, ever so well. Thanks, all the best to you too.
Thank you.
And
All the
speak
best.
to you next time. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Christian. Bye-bye.